Okay, why don't we get started and then votes can trickle in as they come in. Hello, everyone. My name is Annie Lynn, and I'm the Infection Prevention and Control Program Assistant. I'll be introducing today's speakers who will share more about the non-credit programs they have developed or are currently developing. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge that UBC's Vancouver Point Grey campus is located on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh First Nations. I'm joining from Surrey, which lies on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded lands of the Coast Salish peoples, including the Katsi, Kwantlen, and Samiamu nations. I acknowledge that I am an uninvited guest on these lands, and I want to express my deep gratitude to the host nations and peoples, the original caretakers and stewards of these lands and waters since time immemorial. I would also like to acknowledge the Indigenous peoples and territories from which you are joining us today. Our first speaker is Dr. Titus Wong, Executive Medical Director in Medical Affairs at PHSA, the Provincial Medical Director of BC's Provincial Infection Control Network, or PICNET, and a medical microbiologist at the BC Centre for Disease Control. Dr. Wong leads the development of the Applying Occupational Health and Safety Principles in Infection Prevention and Control Microcertificate, designed to provide practical, job-relevant training that strengthens OHS and IPAC collaboration and addresses workforce gaps. He's also a clinical lead for the Infection Prevention and Control non-credit program. Following Dr. Wong, we'll hear from Dr. Elisa Lloyd-Smith, a senior epidemiologist with over 20 years of experience in infection prevention and control, primarily in acute care at VCH. She is also an adjunct professor at UBC's School of Population and Public Health, where she completed her PhD. Dr. Lloyd-Smith is a clinical lead for the Infection Prevention and Control Program, a 25-week online professional development course for healthcare professionals, adapted from a former credit program and taught by a team of experienced IPAC experts. Finally, we will hear from Dr. Dan Holmes, a clinical professor and head of the Department of Pathology and Laboratory Medicine at St. Paul's Hospital. His academic interests include clinical endocrinology, lipidology, mass spectrometry, and data science applications in laboratory medicine. Dr. Holmes is leading the development of the Data Science for Healthcare using the R language microcertificate, designed to equip healthcare professionals with practical skills in analyzing medical data sets using R. With that, I'll invite Titus to begin.
Great. Thank you so much for the introduction, Annie, and thank you for co-presenting with me today. It's a pleasure to see so many familiar faces on the Hollywood squares there, and really excited to talk about this new microcertificate that we're developing. It is the one that's the most junior of the three examples we're giving today, and so I'll just get into it. And next slide. Thank you for the land acknowledgement, Annie. I do also want to acknowledge that I'm in my home right now on the stolen and never ceded lands of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh First Nations. And I also do want to recognize that this month is leading up to National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. So it is a month of and time of reflection of the past and current harms of colonialism on Indigenous people across the land. Next slide, please. I do also want to acknowledge that the program is being funded by the Ministry of Health, Population and Public Health Division, and myself and other presenters. We do not have any other conflicts to disclose. All right, next slide. All right, what is the problem we're trying to solve? What are we doing? So if we roll the clock back 5 years in the pandemic, and I recognize I may have just triggered a number of you just now, but you go back to the pandemic, and it was an extremely challenging time for most of us, especially within the fields of infectious diseases, infection control, public health, occupational health and safety. But at the other end of it, there are some tremendously positive legacy programming and legacy artifacts. And one of them is the much more robust collaboration between occupational health and safety as a field, as well as infection control. I could say similar, really positive things about the collaboration with public health and microbiology and infectious diseases, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But in this particular case, we still to this day have a provincial occupational health an infection control group that meets on a regular basis now, primarily to discuss issues relating to COVID and respiratory season, which is our busy season that we're heading into, right? But underlying that is the development of some very, very close working relationships, not only between the two fields, but also between the health authorities. And we want to make sure that the next generation of occupational health professionals and infection control professionals are trained to understand and work in this collaborative frame. And so this is why we wanted to create a micro-certificate course to gear it at the right level for the existing occupational professionals to learn about infection control as a field, what are the expertise, what are some of our overlaps, and where we might be able to work together better. And the same thing for infection control professionals to understand the expertise of occupational health professionals, the overlaps, and where we might be able to collaborate better together. Ultimately, with the goal to improve and optimize patient safety and staff well-being. Now, while I paint this picture, I also want to acknowledge that there are still gaps, right? We need more occupational health physicians in the province. We need to make sure we standardize a lot of our policies and guidelines and approaches across the different health authorities, right? But having a course like this will set the stage so that we can get to those next big pieces. Next slide. All right, so we can't do anything without a team, and so I do want to acknowledge the great contribution and leadership from both Genevieve and Annie. We can't do this course without them. At the top there, you see this is the content expert team. It's a mixture of both infection control, occupational health, and well-being experts. We have myself bringing in infection control and a well-being lens. We have Joanne Liu, who brings a disability management and return to work and disease exposure lens, and both Nirmana Majumdar and Dave Vigor brings a wealth of expertise on occupational health and again, exposure content expertise. So I'm going to hand it over to Annie, who's going to talk us through some of the curriculum development and next steps.
Thanks, Titus. So development of microcertificates or non-credits in general at UBC follow a structured process. So this sort of highlights the main steps here. So first, we conducted a needs assessment survey, kindly distributed by PICNet. We surveyed IPAC and OHS professionals across BC health authorities, and 82% of respondents expressed interest in this type of course. And their feedback from the survey directly will inform the curriculum and program structure of the program to ensure it's meeting their needs and their requests, and to fill any workforce gaps that Titus has mentioned before. So next, the program will go through the UBC approval process. So there are a couple of steps for this. It starts with faculty approval. We will have to get the tuition approved as well, followed by Senate documentation and necessary approvals. Concurrently, our program consultants, David Vigor, Nirmana Majumdar, and Joanne Liu, led by Dr. Titus Wong, will develop the course materials. They will create the content informed directly by the needs assessment, like I mentioned before, and work closely with Extended Learning, who are learning design experts, to produce media materials and build the Canvas course to ensure that it's suitable for our adult learners. Once development and approvals are complete, the course will be ready for enrollment. Just a brief overview of the program. Like Titus mentioned, this is microcertificate is quite in the early stages of development, but right now we can say that it is an 8-week course. It'll be fully online and delivered asynchronously through Canvas LMS, which is a platform that is commonly used at UBC. Like I mentioned before, it is designed specifically for IPAC and OHS professionals with the purpose of providing practical job-relevant training. The program development team would like to thank the Ministry of Health, who has graciously funded the development of the program, as well as our partners at Extended Learning, who will be supporting media and course development. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Titus?
And yourself?
Yes, me too.
And while you guys, I think one of the things that we want to ask the this group is that there's a tremendous amount of expertise in both curriculum development and content expertise in the audience right now. And certainly if you have an interest in IPAC and occupational health, my son just crawled on the floor behind me. Please reach out. We're a friendly group, and we're very eager to listen to any advice and recommendations and suggestions you might have. So thank you for the opportunity.
All right, if there are no questions, we will move on to Dr. Elisa Lloyd-Smith, who will speak more about the Infection Prevention and Control Non-Credit Certificate. She will be speaking on behalf of the other program leads, Dr. Gada Al-Rawahi, Dr. Alexander Stefanovich, and Dr. Titus Wong. I will also leave my email in the Zoom chat here if anybody has any comments for any of the folks presenting today.
Great, Annie. Thanks so much for the introduction. We can just head right on to the next slide. Yeah. I am so happy to be joining you today. I'm currently located in Vancouver, the traditional ancestral and unceded territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh First Nations. Next slide. As with the previous presenter and course, this curriculum renewal for this program is funded by the Ministry of Health. I don't have any actual or potential conflicts of interest. Next slide. So this presentation is a highlight of where we've been, where we're at, and where we're going in terms of IPAC education offered throughout the Department of Pathology. The origins of the IPAC certificate course began after SARS. Also similar to the previous presenter with the OH&S course following after COVID, the origins of this course were after SARS, and the course is currently intended for working healthcare professionals and healthcare professionals seeking expertise in IPAC. The course has been endorsed by IPAC Canada, and IPAC Canada is a national association dedicated to promoting best practices and advancing knowledge in infection prevention and control. Course 53 weeks in length and included 3 credit courses as well as an 85-hour practicum. This slide highlights the team behind the redesign of the IPAC certificate program. I'm one of the 3 program leads, and we all also operate as instructors throughout the course. The broader instructional team, as you can see, is extensive and relies on a rich depth of knowledge and expertise that's currently available provincially. And I do see some of you on the line and just also want to take the time to acknowledge and appreciate your outstanding contributions. We've also collaborated with subject matter experts to develop the curriculum and work closely with extended learning academic services on media and Canvas course development. Finally, our UBC administrative team has been providing tremendous support in terms of program logistics and coordination. Comparable IPAC Canada endorsed programs offer shorter courses at a lower cost compared to the existing course. With students now having more choices, we needed to evolve our course structure and curriculum to remain competitive. The renewal process has been a journey, and it's just so exciting to be here today as we're quite close to launching. The emphasis of it is to ensure our redevelopment results in a more comparable timeline and at the same time distinguished from other currently available IPAC education modules. We've focused on modernizing the content and delivery of the education and equipping current healthcare professionals with practical skills that are relevant for today and ensuring that education is adding value to the existing workforce. Here is a depiction of the program redesign. In terms of duration, the proposed program is designed to span a total duration of 25 weeks, 24 weeks of instructional content, and a final week dedicated to an exam. The program will be initially offered once a year. There will be no practicum component. The practicum was removed due to logistical challenges. The current strain on the healthcare system has made it challenging to secure placements for our students in the existing course, leading to delays in certificate completion. In the past, students have been on the practicum waitlist for over a year. We also aim to reach an international audience. Requiring a practicum component would then pose difficulties for students to find suitable opportunities. The domestic tuition cost will be $2,000 and international student tuition $3,500. And the program is endorsed by IPAC Canada, as well as being recognized by the Certification Board of Infection Control and Epidemiology, and as an infection prevention unit provider. CBIC is a US-based organization that certifies professionals in infection prevention and control, with its most recognized credential being the CIC. For those maintaining their CIC certification, our program offers 10 IPUs, contributing towards the 40 IPUs required for recertification every 5 years. To ensure our program remains aligned with the updated IPAC Canada core competencies, we've introduced new content areas that reflect current needs in infection prevention and control. This includes modules focused on infection prevention and control in remote communities and low resource settings, which address the unique challenges and considerations healthcare workers face in these environments. We've also dedicated content on diversity, equity, and inclusion, including the development of accessible and culturally sensitive materials that demonstrate how these principles inform and strengthen IPAC practices. We've added more practical hands-on content to the program. Learners will work through case studies, practice writing SBAR for effective communication, and build skills in critically appraising research papers. These updates provide opportunities for learners to translate knowledge into practice. We've developed a rich library of 40 educational videos with the expertise and support of extended learning academic services. These videos include traditional lecture content, animations, and virtual tours to bring the learning experience to life. Highlights include a microbiology laboratory tour and a healthcare facility renovation project tour. We've also incorporated 2 live sessions to provide opportunities for interaction and real-time learning. The IPAC program begins on January 5th, 2026. In preparation for the launch, we've created a new program website, and Annie will share the link in the Zoom chat. Registration will open on the website soon, and we also attended the 2025 IPAC Canada National Conference to share information about the course and connect with prospective learners. If you're interested in enrolling or sharing this opportunity with your network, we encourage you to visit our website to learn more. We are so grateful for our outstanding course instructors, appreciative of the Ministry of Health who have supported the course redesign, our subject matter experts, as well as media and Canvas course development, and so appreciative of Genevieve and Annie. Thank you so much for listening to this presentation.
Thank you, Elisa. Any questions for her? All right, then I'll pass it off to Dan to speak about his microcertificate.
Okay, Annie, are you presenting my slides or am I presenting my slides?
You can present it. I know you had some software you wanted to share as well.
Yes, okay, because I saw the others presenting their own slides. Tell you what, you bring up my slides. When it's time to do the software demo, we'll switch back to me. Does that work?
Will do.
Because-
I'll pull up your slides right now.
Okay. They're on my other computer, you see. They're not here.
Thanks everyone for your patience while I pulled up the slides. Let me just share my screen and then Dan, you can take it away.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, so today I'm presenting about what we have traditionally called breaking up with Excel. It's our, and we're going to turn this course that I've offered at conferences for 11 years into a UBC micro certificate course. Next slide, please. So I want to outline the need that I see that exists in lab medicine and more widely in any branch of medicine that is data rich. So any branch of medicine that relies on numerical lab results. We have an abundance of clean or cleansable data. I'm not particularly talking about narrative chart data, although you can cleanse narrative chart data. I'm talking about numerical lab data that we produce, millions and millions of results per year at every hospital center. And those data from a data science standpoint are extremely clean because they go into the report as individual results that are extremely easy. Well, they come out parsed, so you don't really need to do much with them. You need to understand the context, but you don't need to do much to make that data clean. We understand the delivery of the service. That's very important when you're examining healthcare data. There are a lot of nuances in the data that reflect operational quirks. And the fact that we are familiar with the operation as healthcare workers, physicians, nurses, what have you, we understand where those quirks arise from how the operation works in both the lab and on the floor. We often need to analyze data sets that are larger than can be managed in a spreadsheet. All of you have had the experience of opening up a large data set in a spreadsheet and scrolling the mouse and then waiting. And then the slides roll down a little bit. And, unless you have, a 10-core processor and 128 gigs of RAM, you can run into problems analyzing data in spreadsheets very quickly. And we often want to produce reproducible or recurrent analyses. So we've all received ongoing reports from various organizations measuring KPIs in the wider healthcare network, where somebody is going and manually making an Excel spreadsheet every month, and it's exactly the same report every month, and they have to do that by hand in Excel. And we don't know what mouse moves they did in order to cleanse or produce their images. The nice thing about doing things programmatically is you have both a reproducible report where everything you've done is totally transparent, and if it's a recurring report, you are in a position to just run the same code again and get the report out. And then finally, and if anybody's built a machine learning model before, you know that the heavy lifting for a machine learning model is not the actual model building itself, it's getting the data ready. And so we need to have programmatic tools to prepare the data to feed into an AI or machine learning model building process. Next slide, please. So here's the history. The very first incarnation of this course was 10 years ago in March. You can see that I made that report in Microsoft Word, which has now been converted to our Markdown, which we'll talk about. That was the first incarnation of that course that we provided at the MSACL Mass Spectrometry conference, and we're doing it again this weekend. Different people involved, but fundamentally similar kinds of material that has obviously evolved as the language evolved. So it's been a steady every year offering at this MSACL conference. It's also been offered at the ADLM, formerly the AACC conference, with really good uptake every year, and empowering people to do some of their own data analytics rather than doing a bunch of back and forth with their analysis teams. Not that there isn't a need for analytics teams, but for simple analytics, we can certainly do it ourselves. Next slide, please. So this is the team of educators. Janet and I helped develop this content. Dennis has jumped in on board with us. And so the three of us are going to be preparing the screencasts that are going to go together with the course. The material is more or less prepared, but the screencasts are not. Next slide, please. And so why did I choose the R language? Why not Python, for example? Well, the R language is particularly suited to data that's in an Excel-like format, that's in a rectangular format, the kind of data that we get out of healthcare. It was designed originally as a statistical programming language. And so all of the statistical tests that you can ever imagine are out there in the source code land for this language. But around 2011 or 12, it became the de facto data visualization language. And as data visualization and data science became a thing, which was kind of like between 2010 and 2013 or 14, R rose to the top in terms of ease of visualization. Python is certainly an alternative. It is a little less developed in the production of dashboards and interactive websites. It is not quite as strong at data visualization, but it is a more all-round programming language. You wouldn't program a video game in R, but you could certainly do so in Python. So it's a judgment call, but R is a pretty easy entry, and the ideas that you learn in a course like this can obviously be migrated over to an object-oriented language or to any other language. R has the advantage of over Tableau or something like that it is platform independent. So code written in R can run on Mac, Linux, and Windows. In terms of what is available in the so-called packages, every imaginable statistical test is available, and every imaginable data visualization is available. So when I say package, R has core functionality, but if you want to pull in specialized functionality that people have made for a particular purpose, let's say you're doing geophysical work and you want to do something with 3D mapping of terrain, that's not going to be in the core R material because it's too niche. But you can pull in a package that someone has written to create special functions explicitly for the purposes of geospatial analysis or map reading or what have you. So the same is true for lab medicine. There's very specific lab medicine packages or medical packages, and you can pull those in on the fly as you like to use those custom functions. Why not Tableau or Power BI? Neither Tableau or Power BI is reproducible in the sense that you can't trace everything that you're doing right down to the data cleansing. I mean, I suppose you could create a pipeline for that in Power BI. But Power BI and Tableau are more GUI type tools, and there's nothing wrong with those, but they are commercial, and R is open source and functionally free in that regard, except for your computer, of course. And so now, to be clear, R is harder to use than Tableau or Power BI, but the harder to use part becomes an opportunity for analyses that would be otherwise impossible. So in terms of the kinds of reports you can generate, you can make a Microsoft Word document, you can make an Excel file, you can make a PowerPoint, you can make HTML, you name it, you can make it, and you can make it in an automated pipeline. Next slide, please. So this is the environment in which we will be doing the programming itself. RStudio is not the language. I see people put that in their papers. We used RStudio to do the analysis. No, you used R to do the analysis. RStudio is the interactive development environment. So RStudio is a tool that is specifically devised to make our programming easy and facile. So this is the tool we're going to use. It is not the mandatory tool to work with R. You could use any coding, any text file editor, or any environment you wanted to, but RStudio is particularly well suited, and so that will be the GUI we use to produce the code and to evaluate the material from the lesson. So there'll be screencasts with this as the backdrop for most of the time. Next slide, please. R Markdown is the tool that you can use to produce an automated report. So R Markdown is a way of writing a document into which you can embed code. So what you can do is make a completely reproducible Word document or PDF or HTML where even the numbers in the sentence are calculated. And if you make one change in your data and rerun the code, the document will propagate its changes throughout. So everybody has been in the situation where they've written a paper and they're almost done their manuscript, or maybe they finish their manuscript, they submit it for review, they get back some comments and they say, we want you to include some more data. And then you got to redo all the calculations in all the tables. Well, if you've prepared your document using R Markdown so that all those calculations, all those numbers in the tables are calculated, then all you have to do is rerun the code and everything gets reproduced right end to end. Now, it takes a little longer to prepare such a document, but what you get out of it is something that is entirely reproducible. So RStudio is the IDE, R is the computational language, and R Markdown is the language that is used to prepare documents that have R code embedded in them. And the instructional manual for the course is an R Markdown document that can be changed and rerun to generate the PDF report that represents the book that goes with the course. Next slide, please. So R has a lot of report flexibility. With using R Markdown, you can produce HTML, a Word document, PDF. You can also produce websites. You can make dashboard type websites where you can interact with the front end. You can also make dashboard websites where the data that the website is using can be changed on the fly. So it can tap a database in the back end and bring that data forward so that you can interact with a new data set. Dr. Karen from VGH is very familiar with producing these shiny dashboards. It uses them all the time to make tools for the VGH lab. So our Markdown can also connect with an Excel file, with an old R file from somebody else, or a database on cloud for that matter, in order to make these reports. Next slide, please. We're going to go through the thing that people love to do, which is to do data visualization. So there'll be a large component of data visualization with the course. The tool that R is most famous for producing data visualizations is called ggplot. It's not the only graphical tool in R, but it is one that is quite famous and produces a great flexibility of reports. As you can see here, all of these are ggplot visualizations for different applications. Everything from heat maps to pie charts to terrain and correlation plots. All of these are possible using ggplot depending on the kind of output you request. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, you can make dashboards quite easily. There's two types of dashboards that are commonly used. One is the so-called flex dashboard. That's where you have one data set that is static and you want to interact with that one data set. And then the shiny website, as they're called, is when you need to both interact with the data and you need to change the data on the back end. So make requests to get different data than you are currently looking at. So you might enter some parameters for things you wanted to see, and then the dashboard can pull the data request and then serve up whatever kind of visualization you've programmed in. So this is an example of a flex dashboard. Not mine, it's just one from the internet. Next slide, please. And any data source that you can imagine is possible. So we do some pretty strange things to get our data sometimes. Sometimes we have to parse files that have come from the lab information system with all kinds of unwanted characters in them, and we clean up all of that mess and extract what we want. That's what we do for our QC data. You can take data off the instruments, so that can be off the high volume or the low volume instruments. We bring it off of our mass spectrometers, but we've brought data in off of other high volume instruments before. Of course, you can read Excel files or files from other statistical programs like SAS, SPSS, or Stata. You can interact with different types of databases, the usual kind of MySQL sort of databases, or even big data type databases like Spark. And then you can scrape the web, or you can read, parse HTML. All of those can be your data sources. Next slide, please. And there are drivers for every type of SQL database, and then you can both pull the data over into R, or, which I like to do better, is I write R code, and then I send that R code to the database, and R will convert my R code to SQL code, run the SQL code, and bring back the report to me. So that's different than pulling the raw data down, doing your analyses in R, and then producing your report. I like to let the database do the heavy lifting with a conversion, a translation of R code into SQL code, and then get back the material from SQL. That's because SQL is faster, and that's why it's preferential to do big data analyses on the database side rather than drawing the data into your computer. There's obviously, in different contexts, there's questions of that avoids privacy issues too. You don't not want to have to bring data into your computer if you don't have to, if it happens to contain PHI, that is health information. The other nuance about this is that R happens to use your RAM to store data, to make things quick. So if you don't have a lot of RAM and you want to do big data type analyses, you have to do the processing over on the database side. Next slide, please. You can incorporate other languages when you're programming in RStudio. You can incorporate bash scripts, other like shell scripts, or if you want to pull in something from Python that is particularly strong, you can use a package called Reticulate that will convert your R code into Python code. So this is very helpful when you're doing using some of the tools for machine learning that are very robust and well developed in Python. So people have written kind of translation engines to allow R to take advantage of everything that's available in Python for machine learning and AI. Next slide, please. So I'm going to show you an example of a static report. Just let me bring it up here. And then I'll share my screen once I have it up. Okay. So this is a report that Janet Simons generates monthly for our key performance indicators for this. In this case, it's MSJ. And so the R Markdown code will generate the entire PDF report, and it will produce the table of contents that is linked. Now, this is a simple report, but it obviates the need for someone to make it every month. So here we have some, time series graphs of our turnaround times, the 90th and the 50th percentile for our stat hemoglobins for the emerge. And these are our Rose plots. Rose plots are just stacked bar charts wrapped around on their end for the calendar so that we can compare January 2025 to December 2024 quite easily. So every month we produce these to be satisfying our DAP requirements, and those are pinned onto the wall. This is an example of a static report, in this case, a PDF. Now, you can also make full interactive websites. So I think probably right now you can see our QC dashboard. So if we have so our quality control data is being slurped up every 30 minutes or so by a script in the background, and it's being uploaded to an on-premises cloud server, and then it's broadcasting a website. So I'm going to pick St. Paul's Hospital, and I'm going to pick an instrument, and it's automatically serving up this list of instruments. Let's pick, I don't know, something that isn't going to embarrass me too much, because I'm showing everybody, like, we'll go with mass spec. I'm always proud of mass spec. Let's pick a test that I know, like I said, isn't going to embarrass me, like testosterone. And we'll pick a date range that goes back a few months. And we'll plot our testosterone QC. And then I can hover and find out what date I'm looking at. I can blow up. I can go back. I can download a screenshot of that if I want to. And then if I want to produce a PDF report, I can download that PDF. And there it is. And I can open that PDF up. And there it is. I've converted that interactive report to a static report. Those are two examples. As I mentioned, Dr. Karen has lots of other examples that he uses at Vancouver General for, that's a shiny type report. Do I have any more slides, Annie? I don't think I do, right? No. So that's the gist of the course. That's the kind of scope of things that we're going to be covering in the course. Everything from how to interact with the RStudio IDE, how to bring data in from a file, how to do statistical tests on the data, how to look for stray characters that you might want to parse out, how to do simple visualizations, complex visualizations, regressions, fits, and then we'll be having some projects that are driven either by the student or by the course. We haven't quite determined that yet. I have to work with the other educators to decide how we're going to be doing evaluation, but that's up in the air at the moment. I don't think we have pricing because we haven't received funding, and it meant that we aren't getting any budget from the provincial government. However, we are able to save a bunch of money by doing the screencast ourselves. So I think the budget is up in the air unless Annie knows something that I don't know.
Nothing yet that we can update people.
Okay. So with that, I'll stop. That's the gist of the course. And if there are any questions, I can take them now.
Dan, this is Cheryl Wellington here. This is absolutely amazing. How do I sign up or get some of my lab people to sign up for this?
Well, we have to, the static content is written, but the screencasts are not done. So that we have to do, Dennis, Janet's on maternity leave, that we have to do in the coming months. So I'm expecting, something by springtime that we'll have that all ready. And we have to write a few more hours of course material that isn't in the current Breaking Up with Excel course. The current course is 16 hours long. Yep. We're planning on extending that probably to about 20 or 22 hours long. And then about for every hour of educational content, there's an hour to an hour, maybe an hour and a half of personal practice that the student would have to undertake. But thank you for your interest, Cheryl. As you know, some of Cheryl's students have become quite facile with R during their PhD work. It's been very helpful for them to do very specialized analysis of age-dependent reference intervals.
Thank you, Dan. I guess that our internal audiences will get a discount price, correct?
Of course. I don't know. I'm intending the course for anybody in healthcare. I don't think it's particularly lab. I mean, obviously, lab data is what we have, but when students from internal medicine are doing their research, it's very often heavy on lab data. I wasn't planning to do natural language processing, but there's a very well-developed world of natural language processing for R that one could take on, chart data if one were interested to do so. Any other questions? David.
Well, I wanted to thank you all for the efforts to set up these courses. I mean, it speaks to the richness of the talent in the department that we can move in this direction. But I wonder if when the specific questions have died down, I could say something about October the 3rd rounds, which is a rather unusual and special event.
Certainly. Well, why don't we just try and press that issue? Are there any more questions about or questions for the other speakers that we've missed? Okay, then.
Is it, sorry, just,
go
is
ahead.
this available to people outside of UBC as well? I just know there's a.
Well, in principle,
biochem.
yes, I suppose. I don't know, Annie. I think yes, right? Our courses for the other micro-credentials are available around the world.
Yes, for non-credit courses, you don't have to be a registered UBC student, but the registration will be facilitated through the data science website once that is up and ready.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Okay.
you very much, Annie and Dan, Elisa, and Titus. I would like to thank all of the clinical faculty that have been involved with these courses. The infection prevention and control course in particular, there are representatives from, I believe, all of the health authorities that have taken, have helped to reshape this course to address the Ministry of Health's needs. So thank you very much. And Dan, thank you for your generosity in sharing your expertise with the department. Very much appreciated. David, if we could turn it over to you. To talk
I mean, these rounds were started so we could learn about what each other's doing and learn from each other and grow together as a department. We focused on particular topics, and we thought we would try something a little different on October the 3rd and to try to learn from people's career experiences. And so we're going to start with Dr. Blake Jolks, who I think is probably known to everybody, who tried to retire a few years ago and then failed miserably at that when COVID started and took a major role in leading laboratory medicine for the province of British Columbia, but now he's trying a little harder at being retired. And we're going to have a structured interview of Dr. Blake Jolks about his career by Dr. Jennifer G., who's MD, PhD, third-year pathology resident, and myself. We're going to hold it live at the Patesold Auditorium at VGH, but with, of course, the usual Zoom links. So people are welcome to attend either way. There will be time at the end of the structured interview to ask him questions yourself. And if it's a success, and then we will have future events, and we hope that Dr. Milkrasian will be willing to be subjected to this form of interrogation. And so we can learn from him. And of course, we look for advice or suggestions for other people to interview as well. So you're all very welcome to attend live or by Zoom. And we'd love some feedback at the end of it to see how we can improve this offering. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Huntsman. Genevieve, is there any other announcements for today's rounds?
no, Annie, just to thank you very much for all your support.
Of course. Okay, thank you everyone for your time. I believe this concludes this week's pathology rounds. And thank you very much to our three speakers, Dr. Holmes, Dr. Lloyd-Smith, and Dr. Titus Wong. Thank you.
Thanks, Annie. Bye.